Hello, hello. The name is Regis Kilbin, and the game is Heroes of the Storm. And today we're going to be taking a look at my ultimate Jaina build. This is the go-to build for me anytime I play Jaina and the team compositions or the map doesn't call for something unusual. In other words, this is just my default awesome high damage build that makes Jaina just an absolute wrecking crew when it comes to dealing a lot of damage really quickly. So I'm going to go in and take a look at each talent individually, but just in case you want to get through this video really fast, I'll give you a little preview of the talents. Deep Chill, Snowstorm, Frostbitten, Summon Water Elemental, Stormfront, Northern Exposure, and Bolt of the Storm. Now you know that, but you don't quite know why, so I recommend you stick around and listen to my details and analysis on each of these awesome talents. So, the general idea with this build is pretty simple. It's just to do a lot of damage and stay alive while you're doing that, and that's kind of Jaina's specialty. All of her abilities slow opponents, so it gives you a little bit of extra mobility compared to the people you're fighting. So while you're killing them, you can kind of run away and stay safe typically. That means that you kind of have to develop a rhythm with Jaina, kind of going in, attacking, backing out, casting abilities, moving away, finding the perfect positioning. If you learn to play Jaina like that, balancing her mobility and mobility debuffs on the enemy team with your high damage and your timing of your abilities, you'll just be unstoppable. She's really the best assassin in the game if she's played perfectly in my mind. So these talents are kind of built to assist you in doing that, developing that rhythm and staying safe while still dumping tons of damage on the enemy team. So keep that in mind. And starting with level 1, let's just go ahead and break these down. Level 1, we're going to do Deep Chill. This increases the slow of your trait Chill from 25 to 35%. So in my mind, slows really start to take hold after they get past the 30% mark, and then really are really impactful past 50%. But at 25%, a slow is not doing quite as much. So it may not sound like much, that extra 10%, but usually that's just enough to help you step outside of melee range if somebody's chasing you down, and just gives you a little bit extra room to safely cast your abilities and make a daring escape. So Deep Chill is really the best option here. These other talents are fine, I guess. Winter's Reach, you can do some cool stuff with that perhaps, but Deep Chill really gives you the mobility that you need to stay alive as Jaina. And to do damage, you have to stay alive. Level 4, we're going to go with Snowstorm. This increases the radius of your blizzard by 30%. The talent a lot of people used to go with was Envenom, but it got nerfed and it went from a 5-second duration to a 10-second duration, so it's a little bit slow for really burning people down. Whereas Snowstorm being bigger, and you can see how big the circle on Blizzard is. It's just absolutely enormous. Really gives you a lot of extra punch in team fights, so it's going to hit like 3 people instead of 1 or 2 people. And not only that, you can use it to zone really effectively. So like if you need to block off an escape to the gate, for instance, look at that, you covered the entire entrance. There's no way they're getting through there without taking a hit from Blizzard. The original smaller version is really only about half the gate, so there's still kind of some room for them to walk around. So not only does it help you do more damage to more people, but it also gives you a lot more zoning utility where you can kind of control the space in team fights and move people in directions you want them to go, which is great for that rhythm I described with Jaina. At level 7, excuse me, we're going to go with Frostbitten. This takes your chill damage bonus from 50% to 65%. And that is basically a straight 15% damage buff after you've casted any given ability on someone, which is pretty huge. Like, vulnerable effects that do 25% are just top notch, absolutely great, and this is a 15% buff for your abilities. So, it's hard to show this in action, but we can kind of do the math, I guess. Let's just take a look. For instance, we're at level 20. Cone of Cold right now does 415 damage, right? The automatic 50% buff to Frostbitten, or to Chill, I mean, makes that a roughly, 622 damage ability? Is that, well, I can't quite check, but if you add in that extra 15%, you're adding, about another 62 or 63 damage onto the top of your ability. So 63 damage at level 20 might not sound like a lot, but when you consider it on every tick of Blizzard and Cone of Cold and your Frostbolt and even your Water Elemental, that starts to add up over time. Even over 3 abilities, that's, about 200 damage extra for your full rotation. And over the course of a team fight, over the course of a game, that extra 15% is actually really meaningful. Because how many times has somebody gotten away from you with like a sliver of health left, and you think, man, if I only had 2% extra damage, they'd be dead. Well, there's that 2% damage and a little more. So Frostbitten really gives you some extra burst and really helps you eke out those kills that otherwise you just might have missed. There's some great talents here, alternatives like Frost Armor's fantastic if you're fighting a bunch of scary melee assassins like Zeratul or maybe Butcher even. Can do tons of work, so keep that in mind. Frostbitten might not always be your best talent, but in a max damage build and a general utility build for Jaina, it is awfully good. At level 10, we're going to go with Summon Water Elemental. You get to summon this cool guy. He does stuff. He attacks stuff. Ring of Frost here is not really that great. It's hard to use and it's hard to target, and it's somewhat easy for people to avoid. Whereas Water Elemental is just so good at applying your chill effect or your frostbite effect to everything that it sets up your abilities nicely. It's great at chasing down opponents who are trying to run away. It can even create zoning space for you in team fights as people try to move away from it or escape its range. It can be a body that you throw into the middle of a team fight and they're forced to deal with, preserving some health on your squishies or your tank even. So it just does a lot of different things. Plus it just does damage, and it's annoying. And anything that makes the enemy team have to deal with it and forces a response is usually really beneficial in a team fight. It also gives you a huge edge in dueling scenarios. If you go one-on-one versus somebody and you pop out Frost Elemental, they're just pretty much doomed. You can pretty much burn down anybody in the game with your standard rotation and your Water Elemental. So it's an all-around wonderful heroic. Even though it got nerfed relatively recently, it doesn't matter. It's still fantastic. At level 13, we are going to go with Stormfront. This is an ability that increases the range on your Blizzard. And give me 1 second here. Let's see if we can target this without dying. Yeah. So as you'll notice, like you can look at this. You can reach well into this fort from the gate. Look how long the range is on Blizzard. It is just stupid. Almost out of safety of the tower. Let's see right here. Look how deep into their base you can actually get. If we were on this tower, we could probably almost ping the fort, So this just allows you to do some insane things, basically, from really, really far away. So you're really squishy, and sometimes you have to stay in the back and let your front line work, and you can still contribute to a fight. So say you've been burned down to 10% health, and you just cannot be up there casting Cone of Cold and Frostbolt. You can still contribute in big ways with Blizzard if you have this talent. And it kind of helps you develop that rhythm I talked about, where you can go in and you can do Cone of Cold and you can shoot off a Frostbolt and you can then back out and still hit the target with a Blizzard while waiting for your cooldowns to return. As your cooldowns come back up, guess what? You go back in, you ping with Cone of Cold. You throw a Frostbolt. So you can kind of have a 3-step range here. Cone of Cold being your closest range ability. Then you back out a little bit with Frostbolt, you back out even farther, and you can still drop a Blizzard. So I like that that's what Stormfront allows you to do with Jaina. It just gives you steps and options and flexibility with where you're at and safe positioning. The other talents are both fantastic. Icy Veins can actually help you do more straight-up DPS than any other talent. It's really good for that. Improved Ice Block is fantastic if you've got like a huge burst ultimate on the other team, like maybe Nova's dropping bombs on you and you need to just flip on Ice Block. Or maybe you need to stay safe while your healer gets there or your tank is zoning for you. Peeling for you. So those are both good in certain situations. I'm not trashing those talents. I just like what Stormfront allows you to do as Jaina. It plays in a way like the old Kel'Thas with Flame Strike at Ignite, where he would just sit in the back like this and destroy teams from far away thanks to Flamethrower and Ignite talents. That's how I like to play Jaina. I think it really does open up your options. At level 16, we're going to go with Northern Exposure. This talent increases enemy damage taken by 25% for 2 seconds after they have been hit by Cone of Cold. So let's refresh our forts here and let's try this out. So a Frostbolt right now hits for 350 damage. Okay. Let's that's just base when there's no frostbite applied. It hits for 577 with our standard trait frostbite applied with that little snowflake there floating on it. Now let's see what happens when we tick on Cone of Cold as well. It is 722. So you can see the impact Northern Exposure has. When you set up only Cone of Cold, because Cone of Cold is applying your frostbite, right? Like, it's doing that work for you. You go from 350 damage to 722 damage. So your buffs are essentially doubling the damage on all those abilities for 2 seconds after casting Cone of Cold. If you can ping a couple people in Cone of Cold in a team fight, and then drop a blizzard on them as you run away, it's going to hit them for roughly 1,500 damage. Actually, the best way to do this rotation, it's a little tough timing, but you need to hit your Cone of Cold. Let me see if I can do this here. You drop Blizzard and then hit Cone of Cold in the middle of the Blizzard, because it takes a second for Blizzard to hit the ground, if you'll notice. So you can cast Cone of Cold on the enemy in between when you cast Blizzard and when it hits the ground the first time. That's the only way for the 2-second buff on Cone of Cold's Northern Exposure talent to hit on both strikes of Blizzard. So you'll have to practice that timing a little bit and get the rotation down like that right there. So you'll notice both Blizzards hit for 753, whereas if you do it like this, the second Blizzard is probably going to hit for 602. So you can see there. But anyway, that 25% is just insane. So you got 65% from Frostbite, another 25% from Northern Exposure, so you're practically doubling all damage that you do to anyone who's been Cone of Colded for that 2 seconds, which is just huge. If you can get a full rotation of abilities off right there, which is possible to do in 2 seconds, anyone is going to be dead. You're going to be burning like 3,000 damage right there, just like that. And that makes Northern Exposure just too good. These other abilities or other talents are fine. If for some reason you might need Numbing Blast, if there's a bunch of melee guys chasing you, Ice Barrier can do the same thing, can help keep you alive a little bit. But for straight up damage, nothing is going to beat Northern Exposure. And then finally, at level 20, we're going to go with Bolt of the Storm. So admittedly, this is not like the ultimate damage ability. That would be Arcane Power or maybe even Winter Mute. But Bolt of the Storm just is too good at keeping you alive to pass up. If you're not familiar with Bolt of the Storm, it's a teleport that allows you to instantly move from one place to another. This is fantastic when Zeratul right on you and you just need to create some space. So if he pops up, you can Cone of Cold and then just get out, right? So he's super far away and he's moving even slower. And Bolt of the Storm can actually even be used offensively as well. If somebody's getting away and they're just out of range of Cone of Cold, look at that. You can teleport forward. You've gained 20 meters or something, and you're in range. So it's got a little bit of offensive utility. It's got some fantastic defensive utility, and it just synergizes pretty well with that rhythm that I talked about in Jaina. Getting in, getting out, casting abilities, backing out, staying safe, and staying alive. It's hard to pass up Bolt of the Storm. So those are my talents. I'm going to review them again real quick. Deep Chill, Snowstorm, Frostbitten, Summon Water Elemental, Stormfront, Northern Exposure, and Bolt of the Storm. This, in my mind, is the best way to play Jaina in a vacuum. All other things not considered, this Jaina build will, on average, do the most amount of work for you. You'll just be shredding people without remorse, and you'll be doing it in style. So I do wish you luck with this ultimate Jaina build. I think you'll find it quite successful, and without a doubt, you'll find it fun. It's a great joy to play this build with Jaina. So thanks for stopping by. Good luck on the Hero League ladder there with this build, and until next time, game on.